Hello everyone, welcome to Audible Wisdom. Protect your eyes with your ears. I hope you enjoy listening to books.
Are you a person who works hard, but life always treats you poorly? Are you a person who sets many ambitious goals, but in the end always fails to achieve them? Are you a person who tries harder and harder, but the results are less and less satisfying? Today we are going to explore a very interesting and important topic, false effort. Have you ever felt like this? Every day is hectic, yet you don't seem to be making any significant progress? If so, you may have fallen into the trap of false effort. The biggest fear is that our efforts today are not for the purpose of achieving a certain goal, but rather that this label of "I am working very hard" is so positive. So people won't say anything when they see that I'm trying so hard and the results aren't good. And more importantly, they'll think that I did the best I could. That sounds a little vague. So I'm going to use a couple of examples. It's like a student who has a big test coming up. He's got a bunch of study sessions planned. For example, he's got night study sessions and tutoring. When he gets home, he's got a simple meal, and he's got a project to write. This kind of schedule is flawless. Even if he doesn't do well tomorrow, his parents will think he's done his best. Let's take the example of an office worker. You've already bought a bunch of online courses for your PM license, and you study Japanese on the weekends. Then no matter how tough a person is, they won't think you're lazy or not going professional today. Some people are very cruel to themselves. They make it a rule to get up early, and they cut out unnecessary entertainment and spend it on sports and reading. This kind of self-discipline is very positive, and it's something that a lot of books advise people to do. That's why it's a goal that we all strive for. I'm not saying that all this effort is unnecessary. I'm just saying that there's a fine line between real effort and moved by oneself. Let's take the case of students. To the outside world, the label effort becomes a kind of lifeline. It ensures that it doesn't matter what happens in the end. Internally, he thinks he's done his best. In this case, it's hard for him to explore how he can improve in order to achieve his goal. Because from an observer's point of view, if this student works so hard to get a good grade, if he fails the test, he should examine his own learning style to see if it's wrong. Let me give an example of something I used to do. I read over and over. At the time, I thought I was reviewing what the teacher had taught me in the morning. But in terms of brain science, repeated reading is very ineffective for learning. When it is more difficult to recall information, the brain thinks that the information is related to survival, so it remembers it better. But reading over and over is very easy for the brain to do. It's just reading. That's why we don't remember much today, or for a long time. When I was a student, I was so absorbed in this effort to read over and over again that I didn't think about whether there was anything wrong with it or not. So what I want to emphasize today is that if we think we're trying hard enough, this label is giving us enough benefits. It is harder to step back and think about the strategic side of things. Well, that's not quite the case when it comes to working people. Because when you go to work, your studies are no longer the only criterion for judging whether you're good or bad. That means there are more things to compare. The things we can aspire to are also more complicated. Let me illustrate this with two types of frustration. The first is the feeling that your talents are not being used. I feel like I've spent so many years honing my skills, and when I came to the company, I was busy writing minutes every day. The other is the gap between who we are and who we want to be. For me, when I was a student, my fantasies about work were very good. I thought if I worked hard enough, I'd be recognized and I'd get a promotion and a raise. But once you're in the corporate world, you may find that many people have connections that allow them to move up the corporate ladder 10 times faster than we can. This sense of loss can come from any direction, and everyone has their own way of dealing with it. Some people just choose to be better at what they do. They take more classes, they get more licenses. Some people even push themselves to be more outgoing. They change their personality. They think that's how they're going to be seen. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that. I'm just wondering if there's a more direct way for us to do it. If the frustration you're feeling is because your skills aren't being used, can you talk to a manager about moving to another position? If it's a company that has a history of promoting its own, you could organize your LinkedIn page to help you find your next employer. Wouldn't that be a more direct way to improve your sense of loss? Let's talk about developing self-discipline. Part of the reason why someone wants to be disciplined today is that they're not happy with who they were. He wants to make a radical change today. If he's just motivated today, without a plan, it's hard to achieve that goal. Because it's very easy to fail if you try to rebuild your life all at once. Because we all have limited willpower. For example, if you just finished a 2-hour meeting today, it's hard to do a job that requires concentration right after that. But you usually find that it's much better after you go downstairs, get a drink, and come back up. So when you're developing the habit of self-discipline, you have to remember that feeling. That's why we should take things one at a time and slowly build up a life of self-discipline. For example, you can start by waking up at 8 o'clock, then 7:30, 7 o'clock, 6:30, 6 o'clock. After this habit becomes a routine, then we can think, let's start my self-discipline diet. That's when we can start developing a second habit. I can draw a small conclusion here. The difference between fake effort and real effort. Fake effort refers to activities that appear to be hard work, but actually do not produce effective results. In other words, you may be spending a lot of time and energy, but you're not making any real progress. So what is real effort? Real effort should be a process with goals, plans, and feedback. Only then will your effort produce real results, not just superficial busyness. In addition to this very intuitive moved by oneself, I can mention a very interesting dimension. The problem of self-denial can also arise in the relationship with a partner. For example, some people may think, after all I've done and sacrificed for you in this relationship, you think I still don't value the relationship enough. Both partners think they have worked too hard, but they don't feel it. The logic is the same as before. We've given so much today because we want to show each other that we care. But because we're so absorbed in it, we tend to lose sight of the reality of the situation. What does love mean to the other person? There are 5 forms of love in the 5 love languages. They include gifts, service, words of affirmation, physical contact, and companionship. This may not be exhaustive, but it can give us some direction. For example, when you give someone something they need, you're telling them you love them. But could it be that their idea of love is physical contact and companionship? And it just so happens that you don't provide either of those, so he's super upset. So what you're used to providing is not what he wants. But you feel like you've given so much. It's not your fault, because we're not each other. So now we can observe each other how he gives. Because the way a person gives love is pretty much the way he wants to receive it. For example, he'll organize your closet. You can take his clothes to the cleaners next time. That's the kind of service he might want. That's when our love can reach the other person efficiently. I said that I did this episode partly for myself, because I realized that this kind of uncontrolled effort is also a big problem for me. I have a relative who's worth learning from. He told me over dinner about the benefits of hard work. It doesn't mean you'll be more successful, but you'll have more opportunities. He told me later. When he started his business, there were no projects to work on. But because of his hard work, later, he started getting lots of projects. That's when his business stabilized. For me, hard work is the core of my job. Sometimes I worked until 8:30 at night. I would think that my hard work should be able to touch the sky. Or sometimes that hard work becomes my own excuse. It's like if I'm working on a new video today, and it's not going well. I'd tell myself I did my best, and then I'd move on to the next round of work. For me, trying became an excuse for not doing well, and that's okay. And that part was a real kick in the pants. I started to think about how to take a step back and come up with a new strategy. I haven't come up with a new strategy yet, that's true, but I thought of a next step, because I read something in a book. Take 1 day a week, or at least half a day, away from your work. Try to do something that seems unproductive, and then look back and realize that it was the most productive day of your week. When I read that, I tried it for a while. But when I realized it wasn't working, I stopped. And now I realize that maybe my own efforts were moved by oneself. Maybe now I can try again. Next, I'd like to add that a very common form of moved by oneself is people-pleasing. We may be trying to be good to others today. So whatever he asks you to do, you'll do it. Even if it takes you extra time, you do it anyway. In your mind you think, I've really gone above and beyond for my friends and coworkers today, and they're going to know it. But what about your coworkers? They probably just think you're not busy because you don't have a project to work on. And the next time you ask him for a favor, he will refuse. You'll think, I've done so much for you before. Don't you see? Why do you refuse me now? It's all about the difference in perception and acceptance. And it's a bit of an argument. All right, let's summarize the book, Fake Effort. The full version of the book title is False Effort, Harvard Schoolboy's Notes on a Comeback by Shanglong Li, a former student at Harvard University. First, we explored what fake effort is and why we fall into these seemingly hardworking yet ineffective behaviors. Then, we discussed how to identify fake effort through self-assessment, keeping a time log, setting priorities, and regular reflection to better understand our work habits. Next, we shared specific methods to turn fake effort into effective effort. By setting clear goals and plans, improving time management skills, continuous reflection and adjustment, and seeking feedback, we can ensure our efforts are productive and avoid getting caught in ineffective busyness. Here, I encourage everyone to take action immediately, start identifying and eliminating your fake effort. Try the methods shared today and see how they help you improve efficiency and achieve your goals. If you found this video helpful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. This way, you won't miss more content on personal growth and mental health. Finally, feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section. Have you ever experienced fake effort? How did you deal with it? Your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.